All right. It says it's live, and now we send it over here. And I think we're good to go. Oh, and just so you know, Beth Ann, you can pause it on your page so you don't hear two versions, because you'll hear me and your.
Yeah.
I figured you knew that, but
I know that would
make sure.
Yeah.
Pause it on your page. Oh, there I am. Pause it.
Yeah. I had to
Yeah.
go do that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't automatically play like that for me, but that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully it'll go live here. I'm actually going to refresh mine and make sure it works. But we're here. We're just testing the sound. If you can hear us and see us, we put a little note in the chat box. And yeah, you can share where you're from and maybe what your business is, and just get a little convo going. Just so everybody knows, there's about a 40-second delay between when I say what I'm saying and when you hear it. But so when I ask a question, that will be why, if there's a little delay. Also, if you have any trouble with the video or the audio, if you reload the page and then hit the red play button in the box, that usually fixes it. So just give it a whirl there. Okie dokie. Yay! El Segundo. I used to live in California. I know where that is.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm so excited for this. I'm pumped that so many of you signed up. I know you're going to learn a ton from Lacy today. She has honestly changed the way I think about blogging for my business, the way I plan my content. And, as busy moms, we've got to be strategic. We've got to use our time wisely. And Lacy's going to show you how to do that today. So yes, so excited.
I am too. Very, very excited. We're going to give it just another minute in case we've got some latecomers. I don't think there's anything else technical I need to know. I will be talking about the editorial calendar spreadsheet that you got in your email, but Beth Ann also has the link for it, and she'll throw it in the chat box a little later. It's already in there if you scroll up, but she'll make sure you get it when you, oh, look at that. You are on the ball, girly. And we'll make sure, but you won't need it during the webinar. I have pictures, but if you want to look at it, you certainly can. Alrighty, look at that. Very nice. New York. Yeah, we are. Vancouver. Very nice. Awesome, awesome. Minnesota, Wisconsin, New York. Claire, you got like a fancy font. How'd you do that? That's pretty cool.
That is fun. I've never seen that before.
I haven't either. She's like a chat pro. Who knew? Alrighty. My chat box actually didn't work this morning, and Beth Ann was able to give me another one, and we just stuck it in really quick. So that's pretty fun. Okie dokie.
Claire's laughing. She's not sharing her secret.
Yeah, right. That's okay. You keep it a secret, Claire. It's all good.
Just for me.
Okay, I have 11 a.m., so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Beth Ann, do you want to say a few words just because you're the face that people know?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So welcome, everybody. So excited to have you here today. Hundreds and hundreds of you all signed up for this because I know you're just like me. You're a busy mom or busy woman, period. And you want to make sure that you're blogging about the right things. You want to use your time effectively. And I have to say, I met Lacy, it was last summer. We interviewed her on the podcast, and she honestly just blew my mind with the tips that, she really did. The tips that she shared, the strategy that she shared on how to blog, how to use content to grow your business instead of just throwing things against the wall, hoping that something sticks. Like, Lacy is so smart and so strategic. And so whether you have a blog, whether you have a product-based business, whatever it is that you do, she's going to show you how to make sure you're blogging and writing the content that will get you results. So I'm super excited to be welcoming Lacy here to the webinar today.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited too because you guys are my peeps. I'm a mom. I told Beth Ann earlier, my little one's home sick today, so if we get a little visitor in the middle of the webinar, but hopefully she is all set with some PBS and some snacks downstairs, so hopefully we'll be doing okay. My screen's going to go all infinite monkey here for just a second while I switch to my PowerPoint presentation. So don't adjust your set. There's nothing wrong there. Alrighty, here we go. Gonna work. Beth Ann, can you see that full screen now?
Let me switch back over. Head on the yep, it looks great.
Great, thank you. All right, so you are in the correct place if you are here for the 5 W's of your blog's editorial calendar presentation, and I'm super excited about it. This is sort of the basis for what I like to teach in my business. We were talking about this before we went live, that you know, it's great if you want to have a personal blog about your lunch, blog about your cat, blog about your kids, whatever it might be. But if you're blogging about just whatever for your business, you're really wasting time and effort, and ain't nobody got time for that. So we want to make sure that your blog is supporting your business, and and an editorial calendar is a really great place to start to ensure that your blog is always supporting your business in the best way possible. So what you're going to learn today are my 5 W's of creating your editorial calendar. We're also going to talk about the #1 mistake I see business bloggers make when they first start out blogging for their business. And we're going to talk about the power of working backwards to plan your content. It sounds a little counterintuitive, but it's actually very, very helpful to start at the end with the end in mind. So a little bit about me. I don't really like sort of stuffy, I don't like talking about myself, to be honest. So instead of having just a regular old bio section, I like to play the game 2 Truths and a Lie. I don't know if any of you guys played that when you were a kid, but basically what you do is I'm going to tell you 3 statements about myself, and you have to try to guess which one is the lie. So the first one is, I wrote the entire 6th book of the Harry Potter series, longhand, on yellow legal pads, in my downtime at a supremely boring job. And sometimes people have asked me before, they're like, okay, well, you're not J.K. Rowling. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I wrote my own version of the 6th book of the Harry Potter series on yellow legal pads. Number 2, I applied to a temp agency to be a copy editor with exactly 0 experience on my resume. They gave me a copy editing test and said I was the only person ever to score 100%. Or 3, I won 3 awards for my food writing from the Society of Professional Journalists, but my food blog business flopped spectacularly. So take a second and put your guess in the chat box below. Let me know which one of those 3 you think is the lie. And I will tell you just a little bit about why I choose to do it that way, because I just don't feel like you need to know like everything, like where I was born and you know who my parents were and blah blah blah. It's just not germane to the conversation. But knowing a few interesting facts about me is a little more exciting. Okay, so have you guys got your guesses in? Okay.
Most of them are saying number 2.
Number 2. Okay, that's the copy editing one. Okay, well that's incorrect. I did score 100% on the copy editing test. Actually, the lie is there is no lie. They're all true. I cheated, sorry. But they're all true. So way back in the day, I did sit down and write the entire 6th book of the Harry Potter series on yellow legal pads. And while it was a crazy boring job and just a way to keep myself sane at the time, writing 110,000 words in somebody else's voice taught me a whole lot about finding your voice, pretending to be J.K. Rowling for that long, was actually a really good exercise for me in finding my voice and figuring out how to emulate other people's voices, which led to, I mean, not directly, but in a strange way, led to my job where I started this business as a ghost blogger. And one thing that I do really well is blog like somebody else. So I help other small business owners write their content for them, and I can become them. So that was sort of the first step on that journey. Number 2 was the one about the copy editing test. I really did do that. I moved to Denver with no job and no prospects, walked into a temp agency and said, I'm a copy editor. And they said, that's not what your resume says. And I said, no, I can do it. So they gave me the test. And I did. I scored 100%, which just tells you that I'm a little bit type A and kind of a grammar Nazi sometimes. And number 3 was the one about the Society Professional Journalists. After the whole copy editing debacle, I became an editor of a magazine. Then I got laid off with that job, and then I got another job as the food editor of a local magazine here. And I did. I won 3 journalism awards from the Colorado Society of Professional Journalists for my food writing. So when I quit that job and decided I was going to start a business from home, obviously, I decided to start a food blog because I was a food writer. But that didn't go so well. And the blogging, I got great. Like, I grew my list by 800% over 2 years. I got invited to guest blog for Martha Stewart's websites. I mean, that part was going super well. The part that wasn't going super well was that I picked a challenging niche to sell to, which is moms on a budget. And let me just tell you, moms on a budget don't want to spend money. So that was kind of the flaw in my plan there. And so when I decided that I was going to let that business go, I still have the food blog. It's just not really a business anymore. I said, well, I'm pretty good at this blogging thing. Maybe I could do that. And that's kind of how this whole enterprise was born. So enough about me. Like I said, I get a little uncomfortable talking about myself for too long. So let's jump right in here. So this is what we're going to talk about today. The 5 W's of your blog editorial calendar plus 1. You get a little bonus there at the end. So probably when you were in elementary school, or if you did any journalism in college or anything like that, you learned about the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why, and sometimes how. And that's the questions we're taught to answer to tell the whole story, right? We have to answer all those questions. So that's what we're going to do today for your blog and for your blog's editorial calendar. Except I'm going to do them a little bit out of order. We're going to go why, who, when, where, what, and then how. So the editorial calendar is where the magic happens in your business for your content. Oh, there's no pictures. That's exciting. Wait a minute. What's happening? The image cannot be displayed. Well, that's exciting. Okay.
I wonder if the other ones will work, though. Maybe it's just the one page.
That's funny because I can see them here in the sidebar. And I
Yeah,
can't see
same here. Yeah, I see the sidebar ones, too. Oh, there's one that was...
Well, there's some. Okay, well, so maybe we'll just sort of jump ahead here. And, okay, these are not super vital. So we'll just jump to this picture.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
It's always something, Tech.
Always something. So this is what your editorial calendar template looks like that I shared with you guys. And this is where the magic really happens in your business for your content marketing. And so you'll see, if you open up the document, and you'll see in these images, assuming they load, that I have columns that I've marked, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And so I'm going to talk today about how to fill this out and also kind of why to fill this out. And that's actually where we're going to start today. Let me back up just a little bit and tell you that I brought this concept over from my days as a journalist. So, when you're reading a glossy magazine, whatever your favorite magazine is, when you're looking at the local newspaper, if you still do that, or even when you're reading any of your favorite major blogs or websites, they have a editorial calendar that they follow. And, with magazines in particular, they plan out 6 months or more in advance. So, you know, we're coming up on the summer here. They're planning Thanksgiving right now. They're shooting turkeys and stuff for you know, the food articles. So they work very, very far in advance. The editorial calendar for a newspaper is much shorter because they're more about breaking news. But, you know, the editorial pieces, those great travel pieces in the newspaper, those are planned out really far in advance. And then your favorite websites, if they're posting daily, I will bet your bottom dollar they have an editorial calendar to keep track of who's posting what and when and where. So this is kind of a bigger media strategy that you can steal and use no matter how big or small your business and your blog is. And I actually added to it a little bit because, you know, a lot of times when I was at the magazine, it was just about what are we going to publish and when. And I've added some more details to it. And I'll explain what those are and why here in a moment. So we're actually going to start with why. And I think this is where a lot of people get hung up in their business blogging, right? So somewhere along the line, somebody told you that you ought to have a blog for your business. And so you said, great, I will go add a blog. Maybe you even said, hey, yeah, I like to write. That sounds like fun. Or maybe you said, oh my God, I hate to write. What am I going to blog about? Either way, you started a blog for your business, and maybe you started with a lot of momentum and knew exactly what to write about. Maybe you've struggled since the very beginning. Maybe you're still at the beginning. Either way, if you haven't sat down and thought about why you're blogging for your business, you're missing a bet, because that's really the linchpin that determines whether or not your blog is going to be valuable for your business. So as I said before, I kind of am of the opinion that unless it's serving a distinct purpose and value for your business, you're probably wasting your time, which is not to say that your blogs are not valuable, but you need to make sure they're focused and serving a direct purpose. So you might notice from this picture that there are two columns that are tagged why here. And so your first why for your blog is, why are people reading you? Why do people come to you? There's generally three answers to that question. They come for entertainment, they come for inspiration, or they come for education. And I would say probably 8 times out of 10, a business blog falls into that education category, because you're either educating them about your topic, like I write about blogging, or you're educating them about something tangential to your product. So like if you sold jewelry, for example, you might not be educating them about how you make jewelry, but maybe you're educating them about how to wear it, giving style inspiration, and so on and so forth. So you have to know kind of, why do people come to you? What do they want out of the experience of reading your blog? So that first why column is category. I like to break up my posts in a couple of different categories. I call them my buckets, right? So all of my content fits into one of 3 or 4 buckets. In this example, I have like blog 101, editorial calendar, and balance, which could be like a general category. You might have something different. A fitness guru, well, you almost certainly will, unless you're blogging about blogging. A fitness guru might have, you know, like exercises, like actual, here's how to do an exercise. They might have diet posts, and they might have mindset posts. Those might be their big buckets that they talk about. So this is what people come to you for. These are the categories of information that you talk about that either educate, entertain, or inspire your audience. And that kind of helps you to see, if you use that column, it can help you make sure you're hitting all those posts regularly. So for example, one of my clients a while back was a fitness guru, and she wanted to make sure that she rotated equally between fitness posts, diet posts, and mindset posts. So she could look at her calendar and say, okay, every 3rd week I talk about mindset. And so that helped her get organized and make sure she was talking about hitting the points she wanted to really talk about in equal measure. The second why column there says AIDA, which stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. And what that is for is to answer the question, why are you writing this for your business? So you want to know your big why behind blogging. Maybe it's to, usually it's to get people on your list. Sometimes people say it's to build a bigger community. Sometimes people want to become a thought leader in their niche or in their community. But that's your big why, your big business why. The smaller business why has to do with each particular post. So why am I writing this post right now? And that's where the AIDA comes in. So AIDA is an old school copywriting technique from like Mad Men days. And they used to put all 4 of those things, attention, interest, desire, and action, in a single letter, like a sales letter. If you've seen long form sales pages, the same idea. You hit all 4 of those points. I kind of believe that your blog is a long form sales letter dripped out over time. So I'm saying you hit those 4 points, but you hit them at different times, on different weeks. So for example, an attention post is one that's going to get a lot of attention, get a lot of eyeballs. You want to attract as much attention as possible. These are the ones that have the potential to go viral in your world, whatever that means for you. A lot of times they're kind of those clickbaity ones, right? They have a really intriguing title that people can't not look at. Interest sort of holds people's interest. So if they came for the attention post, they're going to stay for the interest post. A lot of times it challenges some preconception they might have. It expands on an idea that you may have pointed out in an attention post, or it gives them some kind of how-to, like here's how to solve a smaller version of your problem, or here's how to solve a problem you have before you need to buy my product. Third one is desire, and that's pretty obvious. You want to generate desire for your product or service. And finally is action, where you're actually asking for the action you want them to take. Sometimes that's buy now. Sometimes that's I'm opening the shopping cart. Sometimes that's get on my list. But whatever that action is, you're actually asking them to take the action. And so what I found is when you work through those in order, you get a lot better engagement. You get a lot better. Your blog is actually serving that purpose. So it's serving to promote your product. It's serving to help move them along that path to a sale. I want to stop here and ask if there's any questions, Beth Ann, because this is a pretty thick topic.
Sure. Okay, so some people, I think everybody's finally got the video and stuff working. Now, Lacy, I have one question for you. Are you wanting to stay on the same editorial calendar slide?
No, I think I'm going to move forward next, but we'll find out. Cool. Yeah, some of them work and some of them don't, so we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, and no problem. This content is so good. I put in the chat, I went ahead and put the attention, interest, desire, action. So that's
great.
Yeah, that's what Lacy is saying is how you want to move people through your blog post. Someone said columns are kind of blurry. Okay.
Well, this is all also in the template that you can download. So if you can't read it very well, that could be like a bandwidth issue, and it's all in that downloadable template. So you'll have it for later as well.
There we go.
Okay, so we'll just look at this white screen for a second here. That was our why. We talked about our 2 big business whys. The next one is who. So the number 1 mistake I see small business bloggers make when they're first starting out has to be that they start out talking to the wrong audience. And I actually made this mistake in my own business, this very business that I have right now. So when I started out, all I was doing was ghost blogging. So I was looking for people who wanted me to blog for them, who wanted me to take over their blogging. But what I was writing about on my blog was how to blog. But the people who want me to do the blogging don't care how to blog, right? They want to hire me to do it. So I realized early on that I was actually talking to 2 different audiences. Well, I had 2 different audiences in my business. There were the people who didn't give a flying zucchini about how to blog. They just wanted to hire me to do it. And then there were the DIYers that I was attracting who wanted to learn how to blog, but I didn't have a product for them. So I changed that, and that's how I fixed that problem. But I see this very often because I think people have heard that you should write what you know about, which is true. So they start writing what they know, which is how they work in their business. So for example, let's pretend we have a photographer. She's a wedding photographer. And so she wants to start a blog for her wedding photography. And somebody's told her she should write what she knows. So she hops onto that blog and she starts talking about the kinds of lenses she uses, what kind of lighting setups are best in a church, and how to get those bridesmaids to pose just right, and so on and so forth. And her blog starts to get some traction. She starts getting some comments, some likes and shares, but she starts to realize most of the people commenting and liking her blog are other photographers, and they're not likely to buy her wedding photography service. So her problem is she's reached out to the wrong audience. So the way we can fix that is to be very intentional about who our audience is. So I have a column, as you can see here in the spreadsheet, that's for your who. Now, you may only have one audience, and that's okay. So if you discover that you really only have one ideal reader, you may not even need this column once you've made sure you know exactly who that person is, right? But what I discovered when I was writing my food blog in particular is that I was attracting a couple of different subsets of an audience. So I started that blog blogging to moms with young children. That's who I was, and that's who I thought I was going to attract, and I did. But I also started to attract college-age kids that wanted to eat healthy on a budget, and empty nesters, some of whom had medical issues, who were trying to eat healthy on a budget for the first time in their lives. And so if I wanted to sort of engage those groups and write content for them, I could start using that who column, again, just kind of the same way I use the category column, to make sure I'm hitting those different audiences at the right time, or equally. So I might write a post about how to feed a toddler for the moms, and then maybe about how to cook in your dorm room for my college kids, and maybe about how to reduce recipes to feed just 2 people for my empty nesters. You know, there might be moms that were interested in how to feed 2 people, but specifically for those empty nesters. So this is just another tool to make sure, if you do have multiple audiences, that you're hitting them at the right time, that you know what this particular blog post is intended to do. This can also be great if you have people who are at different stages of awareness in your buying cycle. So what I mean by that is, like, there's always going to be people who are brand new versus the people who are already your raving fans and will buy anything you create, right? And there's a whole spectrum of people in between. So if you want to make sure, like, okay, I need to talk to beginners now, especially like when you're grabbing attention, that's going to be cold traffic, right? That's going to be people who've never heard of you before. So you might put in that who column, this is new people. Whereas by the time you get to your action or your desire post, they know you a little better. They're a little further along, and you're really talking to those people who are ready to buy. So that's a little bit different audience. So you can use that who column to kind of keep track of who you're really talking to. Okay, so we've done. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to stop you real quick. We had a great question from Heather. She said, how did you identify what audiences you were attracting?
Good question.
So how were you figuring out? Yeah.
So in my case, I noticed I was getting comments and emails from people in different situations. And, you know, 1, you can call that a fluke. 2 might be a coincidence. But when you're getting quite a few from those different audiences, you go, oh, okay. There's more people that these are not all just moms. You know, that's kind of what happened with me. You may notice that people are asking questions that indicate they're kind of in a different area. And you may notice that you can see, like, if you have a Facebook group or anything like that, where you can kind of see who's hanging out, you can kind of tell. You can also do a survey. You can send an email to your list and just ask a little bit about who they are. Or again, if you have a Facebook group for your business, you can ask real casually, you know, hey, are you guys moms? How old are your kids? Whatever it might be. Finally, there's a tool I like called Disco. I think that's just the name of it, Disco. And it'll embed a little pop-up survey very unobtrusively in the bottom right-hand corner. And you can ask any questions you want. So if you're really interested in finding out more about who you're attracting and who's actually on your website, a little plug-in like Disco could be very helpful. So, and also, if you find you're attracting the wrong audience, don't panic. Like, you just need to figure out where your message is attracting the wrong people and adjust it a little bit. That's all. But it's really good to know, because now you know why you're not making sales, maybe because you're attracting the wrong audience. Okay, so we've talked about why, we've talked about who. The next one is the power of when, and the magical pictures have appeared again, so who knows why, but it's okay. We're just going to keep rolling here. So this is the part where, back at the beginning, I said I was going to talk about how to work backwards to plan your content. And this is where we start working backwards. This is probably, if you take away one thing from this webinar, this is what I want you to take away, because this is so incredibly powerful in building your content marketing calendar. It will change the way you blog 100%. So the way I like to think about it is, everything you do is a sales cycle. Whether you are doing like internet launches, or not. You have sales cycles. So think about, for example, an accountant has a very distinct sales cycle, right? At tax time, that's what they're doing. From January to April, all they think about is taxes. But then they might sell other products the rest of the year. I had a client who was a personal stylist, and she talked about her sales cycles were very dependent on when the new clothes come out, right? So in the spring and the fall, when the new collections come out, people wanted to go shopping. But we figured out together that she could talk about like closet audits in the summer or travel planning. We could talk about at Christmas, we could talk about cleaning things out. So she had different services that she could put in those downtimes for her that would fill in the gaps. So those were her sales cycles. If you do have a traditional sort of product launch setup, that's your sales cycle, you know, from when you start talking about it to when your shopping cart opens to when it closes. If you have an evergreen product like my jewelry designer we were talking about, or an ebook that's just always available, you can still create sales cycles around those products. Just, you know, it may not be that you're even having a sale per se, you're not discounting anything, but you just generate desire and interest with these sales cycles. Okay, so what I mean by that, if you look at the first two columns in the spreadsheet, we have major events and when. And so major events, I like to just plug in what's going on in my life at that particular time. So the dates are pretty easy. This is just when I'm going to post. This is 7 days for me. So I post once a week. If you post every 2 weeks, you can change it up twice a week, whatever. The dates can be however often you post. But then over here in this first column, I fill out what's going on in the greater world. So if there's a holiday, especially if my product has to do with holidays, I'm going to put those in. For example, my Blogstorm product is all about planning, and people are always thinking about that around the new year, right? So I probably want to run a promotion between Christmas and New Year's, or right after New Year's, because that's when people are thinking about it. Beth Ann, I know you have a planner, so New Year's is a big one for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you can also see I have a big sale put in here. So like if you're running a sale or a promotion or something like that, you're launching something, your cart opens, you could put those dates in there as well. If you're running a webinar, something like that, any kind of promotional thing that you're doing or something that's going to drive a lot of traffic, put all those in your major events column so you can see like the big picture of what's happening. And then we work backwards from that event. So going with my big sale example here, if I'm having a sale on October 5th, then that's the day I want to ask for the action, right? That's the day I want to say, hey, the sale starts now, come by. Or my shopping cart is open. Or you can get 20% off on my ebook today. That's my action post, right? And right before I ask them to take an action, I want to generate desire. I want to make sure they know why they need this. I want to write a post that makes them say, oh my God, I have to have this thing. When is it going to be available? That's what we want to do there. And before I generate that desire, they need to know what it's all about, right? So I'm going to write this interest post that teaches them maybe how to solve a lower level problem that they need to have solved before they get my product. Or maybe it's just going to give them some more information about why they need my product. And finally, even before that, I want to get as many eyeballs as possible on my blog so that by the time I ask for the action, there's as many people as possible to ask, right? So we go through that sequence working backwards. Now this is just sort of a shortened version here. I usually say if you're running a big sale, big promotion, launching something, you want at least 6 to 8 weeks of promotion on your blog before you ask for the action. So there's only 4 steps here. So obviously you're going to repeat a couple. You can repeat them in order like I've done here, 2 desire posts, 2 interest posts, 2 attention posts, or you can kind of mix it up. Sometimes I do attention, interest, then desire, because I want to get those eyeballs up front, right? So this is kind of just an example of how I lay out my content calendar to support what I'm trying to do in my business. Beth Ann, does that make sense? Or is anybody asking questions?
Yes, we're getting some great questions.
Okay, good.
And I copied and pasted them all. A lot of them I thought we could take at the end. But
great.
Actually, I was gonna say though, to someone had asked earlier about the whole attention, interest, desire, and action. I told them the wrong thing. I told them, they said something like, how many of each post do you write? And I was like, oh, I think that's the format for every post. And then I'm like, oh no, because you're now.
No, that's okay.
So, yeah.
You can do it either way. There's actually, that's not totally wrong. So like, especially if I'm launching something brand new, that action post where the shopping cart is open might hit all 4 of those points in one post. In fact, I do that pretty frequently in one of my email marketing. Like if I'm sending an email that I really want people to buy from, I might hit all 4 of those things. But this way is a little easier when you're stretching it out over time, because then you only have to focus on one at a time. But you're not wrong, Beth Ann. You can do them all 4 in one as well.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. But I like what you're saying though, Lacy, with the plan, and where you're saying like really you need 6 to 8 blog posts to warm up that audience, get them excited, get them interested, show them why they need that product that you have. I mean, it makes so much sense. I'm now like, this is already has my brain churning for the Kickstarter campaign. I'm doing it in a few months. I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to set my editorial calendar now. I need to follow up.
Well, and I just interviewed Bushra Azar. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. She runs the Persuasion Revolution. I just interviewed her for my new podcast, and she had this like blew my mind moment in there. She was talking about for her launch. P.S. You should totally listen to this interview because she spelled out her entire launch formula for content, and it was brilliant. But for her recent launch, like 8 weeks before she ever even like opened the cart or anything, she did this massive giveaway because she wanted to get a whole bunch new people on her list. So she did this massive, she was giving away a year of Entreport, which is a fancy pants email service. And so she did this huge, huge, huge giveaway to get all these people on her list, right? And then she had 8 weeks of sort of priming. That's what we're doing here, right? With these attention, interest, and desire. We're priming people to get ready for that sale. We're showing them how much they need, what we're doing. So she had 8 weeks of priming between the giveaway and opening the cart. And she was telling me if she could do it again, she would have added 4 more weeks because she felt like those new people needed more nurturing before they were ready to buy. So that's 3 months. Wow. That's 12 weeks of nurturing. Now, granted, what she was selling was pretty high end, so they do need a little more nurturing. If you're selling like a $40 product, you need less nurturing. If you're selling a $2,000 product, you need a whole lot more, right? So, you know, you can kind of gauge it that way. But she was saying she would do, if she were to do it again right now, she would start with 12 weeks out, which I thought was incredible.
Yeah. Oh, people are asking, and I was going to ask again too. So the name of the podcast, and then
sure. It launches on Monday, on the 9th, and it's called P.S. You Got This. So we'll be in iTunes on Monday. P.S. You Got This. You can probably search my name too, starting Monday. But if you go to my Facebook page or anything like that, I've been plugging it a lot, and there's a place to sign up for to get an email when it goes live. But yeah, that's P.S. You Got This. That's the name of the podcast.
Awesome.
Thanks. Thanks for letting me plug that.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Okay, so we've talked about our why. That's our big one, right? We've talked about our who. We just covered when. So now we're talking about where. And, you know, when I do this with feedback, some people are like, duh, Lacy, I'm posting it on my blog. Where else would I post it? But what I actually mean here is where are you going to promote it? So this is a part of blogging I think people forget because they think blogging is marketing. So therefore, I've written my blog, I've done my marketing. And you're not wrong. Blogging is marketing. But we live in an era where there are something like 3 million blog posts published every day. So you are going to get lost in the noise if all you do is hit publish. I call this the field of dreams problem. People think if I write it, they will come. And that doesn't work anymore. It did maybe 5 or 10 years ago, not anymore. So we have to build in some promotion into our blogging plan. And I have right here, where will you spend your other 80%? Derek Halpern of Social Triggers, he doesn't do this much anymore, but he started out, his whole point of his Social Triggers was that he was looking at scholarly works, so like psychology and stuff, and applying it to online business. And he was saying that according to the research he had done or read, that he was applying the Pareto principle to promotion. And he was saying if you spend 20% of your time writing the post, you should spend 80% of your time promoting it. Mostly when I say that to people, they kind of fall out of their chairs and go, oh my God, what? Like, it takes me 4 hours to write a post and you want me to spend 80% more promoting it? Can you tell I can't do math on the fly?
Yeah, I was trying to think. I was doing the same thing though.
Anyway.
I think 16 hours maybe.
16? Okay, so whatever. It's a lot, right? And nobody I know does that. But it is kind of a good reminder that we do need to make that a part of our process, and we need to be intentional about it. So that is why I added, and now you can't see that either. Let's see if I can find, let's go back to that's why I added a column for, oh, you can't see it. There's a where column on the spreadsheet. So what I want you to use that where column for is to think about where you can promote it in addition to what you normally do. So for me, I have a checklist of where I promote my blog posts every week. So I always send it to Facebook, I always send it to Twitter, I always put it on Pinterest, etc. And there are even, like, I always share it in these 4 or 5 Facebook groups, I always share it in this Google group, and so on and so forth, right? So I've got this list of things I always do every week. But then sometimes you write a post that would appeal to a specific audience, and maybe you're part of a group. So for example, in the template, my first line there is a post I wrote called What 5 Days Alone Taught Me About Work-Life Balance. And it was all about how my daughter and my husband went on a trip. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be so amazing. I'm going to have this incredible work-life balance, right? I'm going to do yoga, and I'm going to feed myself wonderful food and work and blah, blah, blah. Well, what actually happened was I sat at my desk for 14 hours a day and never got up because I didn't have anything telling me, like, there was no little child that needed to be fed, no husband coming home, nothing, no cues to tell me to, like, get off my butt and stop working. So that, in particular, that post, I think would appeal to other mama CEOs. So I might share that in my groups that I belong to that are specific for moms, right? Or I might send a note to Beth Ann, now that we're friends, and say, Beth Ann, I think this article would really appeal to your community. Would you mind tweeting it out for me?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that with every single one, but Beth Ann, right? You'd probably be like, sure, no problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, like, but another post might not be a great fit for Beth Ann's audience. So I wouldn't ask her, you know, I'm not going to ask her every single week. That would be crazy and creepy and kind of stalkerish. But I can make a note of that in my editorial calendar, like, okay, I know I'm going to write about mama CEOs, so I want to make sure I email Beth Ann and Megan Flatt and these other people who work with mama CEOs and ask them to tweet that out or Facebook share it for me. And so that's just my little extra bit of promotion for that particular post. And if you get intentional about thinking about that, you'll find that your promotion is A, a lot easier, and B, a lot more effective, because you'll have already thought about, yes, this is how I'm going to promote it. This is what I'm going to do. There's also 2 columns to the right of that, one for Facebook copy and one for Twitter copy. If you're working ahead, or if you're working with a VA or anything like that, and you want to go ahead and write the promotional copy, that's what that's for. If it's not useful to you, don't worry, don't use it. You don't have to. But none of this is obligatory. It's just, these are tools that have helped me make my blogging more efficient. So we're going to skip the white screen of death. We're going to move on to the final W, which is what, as in, what the heck am I going to write about? So you may be kind of concerned that you thought this was about, you know, blogging, and this is the last thing I'm talking about. But my theory here is that when you get the other 4 W's nailed down, the what becomes so much easier. So when you get the why, you know why you're writing this particular blog post. You know why you're writing it right now, so you understand the when. You're working backwards. You know exactly who you're talking to, and you have an idea of where you might want to promote it. All of a sudden, the what becomes a whole lot easier, right? You can say, oh, well, I know what to write about. I know what's going to cause desire. I know what's going to get people's attention. So that's a very important part, but it's sort of the last thing, right? So again, I don't have my lovely picture, but what I have in the second tab of your editorial spreadsheet that you get to download from me is an idea bank. And what I like to do is put all of my ideas in that idea bank. So no matter where you come up with the idea, I don't care if you're in the shower, I don't care if you're in the carpool lane, I don't care if you're on an airplane, no matter what, you're eventually going to transfer those ideas to one place, which I call your idea bank. It doesn't have to be in the Excel template. If you like to use Evernote, if you have a notebook, if you like sticky notes all over your wall, whatever, but you need one place for all of them. I like the Excel sheet because I can also put in my categories, my whys. So I have my 2 why columns, my category and my AIDA. And I can kind of see where that idea might fit. So then when I'm thinking, okay, I need an interest post for this particular topic, I can just sort that sheet and I can find all the ones that I've already thought this would probably make a good interest post. And bada bing, bada boom, I've got my topics all planned out. I usually spend about an hour, maybe every 6 months or every quarter, depending, just brainstorming ideas. And then I'm set for the next 6 months, 3 to 6 months, set to go. I have all these great ideas of things I want to talk about, and then I can just slot them in to my editorial calendar where they go. Okay, so we've done our 5 W's. I could say a lot more about how to come up with what you're going to talk about, but that's actually where my Blogstorm program comes in. So I originally created Blogstorm as a way to brainstorm for your blogs, hence the name. And I've added to it over the years. So it started out like how to brainstorm ideas. So the first couple of modules are all about figuring out where to get good ideas, how to eavesdrop on your customers, find out what they want to know, how to know what to write about. And then I added to it, and I added more about how to implement that AIDA process. I added more about how to pick your categories strategically. So again, what I call my buckets, where I have all my different topics fall into 3 or 4 different buckets, how to pick those strategically. And finally, how to connect the dots between your content and actually making money for your business, right? Because as I said at the very beginning, if it's not supporting your business, why are you doing it? So this is kind of my bonus. This is the how. And if you're interested in learning more about Blogstorm and how it might help you, this is the link for you guys in particular. It's a bit.ly link, so bit.ly/Brilliant Moms, and I think you do have to capitalize the B and the M. But that will take you to the page that gives some more information about Blogstorm. But basically, this is the next step. So if you've gotten everything you needed from this webinar, awesome. I am happy. That's what I do it for. Like, I want to give you as much information as possible inside an hour. But if you feel like you need a little more support, you need a little more information, this is where you can get it, right? So I just thought I would share a few things that people have said about Blogstorm. This first one is from James Krenner. He's actually my accountant, and he took Blogstorm because he wanted to launch a course, a little e-course about how to use Wave, which is the accounting app I use with him. And he told me that after doing his first ever blog posts, he did 4. He did the AIDA sequence, and he got more than 140 entrepreneurs to sign up for his course. And he was about to launch his his paid course, which I believe he sold out of like 140. I think he sold like 20 spots, which I think is a pretty good conversion rate for just getting started. Priscilla told me she was doing a happy dance just because she figured out her editorial calendar. She said the feeling alone was so worth it to do Blogstorming. And I think that's something I hear a lot. Like, I've been meaning to do this. I need to get organized. I want to have more systems. I want to have more strategy. And so that feeling of, oh, finally, it's done. That's what she was talking about. Anne and Lisa at the bottom here were talking about the very first module goes into that finding your why a little deeper. So if you weren't totally sure what your 2 big whys are when I was talking about that, that's what that first module's for. And they were saying like the clarity.
Sorry, Lacy.
Yeah.
Really quick, people are saying they're getting an error on the page. Is that
No.
It worked for me earlier. I tested it. You guys, you're going to the bit.ly link and it didn't work? Let me just clarify with them.
Yeah, and Beth Ann, in that document I sent you with all the links, there's the long not bit.ly link for your people. So if you want to find that, we can give them the long one too. It's just hard.
Okay, let me go
say it out loud. I'm
it's
so
working
sorry.
for some of them.
I swear to God, this is like Mercury retrograde for me right now. Thank you for sticking with me. If y'all are still here, I appreciate it. I mean, the information is all good, but
click my link, you guys. If you click my bit.ly, it works. But yeah, let me go get you the long form link too. It's working for some. That's so funny. Okay, but
okay, I think you do have to have the capital letters. I had that happen with somebody else's bit.ly link, and if they didn't have the capital letters, it was just like an error page.
And also, I have to tell you really quick, Entrepreneur Mom was like, $60, is that all?
Yes, ma'am, that is all. So yeah, so let's just jump ahead because why not, right?
Yeah,
so it's $59 right now. You can't see my little image because everything's going wrong, but that arrow was pointing to an image of how it's going to look, because here's what's happening. I'm saying it's a $3.99 value because in June, I'm upgrading the course. It's getting a facelift. As I said before, I've been adding stuff to it. So it started out as a much smaller little course at $60, and I've just never increased the price. And now it's a much, much bigger course. It's getting a facelift. It's getting a new name. It's going to be called Content Intelligence Academy, which is CIA, which goes with my branding. But it's going to have new recordings, new worksheets, and stuff like that. And so the price is going way up. So you guys are getting a really amazing deal, because if you buy right now at the $60 investment, you're going to get all the upgrades. So it's a lifetime value offer. So I'm saying, like, you get lifetime access. So any upgrades I make after this, you'll also get. Ooh. So don't tell anybody else that you got it at this price. No, but seriously, yeah, it really is going up that much because that's what my business coach told me I had to do, and it's a little bit scary, but we're going to do it and see what happens.
Wait, what's the price going up to, Lacy?
It's going up to $3.99.
Whoa.
So in June, so you're basically saving like 85%.
Yeah. Holy cow.
And this is not like, I hate those false scarcity things like buy now, but this is a real thing that's happening. So
true. Yeah.
Yeah. So that just because of the timing of this webinar, you guys get this amazing deal. You also get, so you'll get all the new stuff when it becomes Content Intelligence Academy. I also do monthly live office hours in our Facebook group, which is so much fun because I set up a thread in the Facebook group, and people type questions, and I just type my fingers to the bone for an hour answering questions. And people really love it because then there's a record, so you can see all the questions. Even if you can't make it to that one live, you can go back and read all the questions and answers. So people really like that. And then also in July, I do it twice a year. I run the whole course live. So basically I have, weekly office hours, and I'm helping in the group much more. I'm always in there, let's be honest, but in July and January we run it live. So if you get in now, you can get on that as well. I'm hoping the link works now, because that is super frustrating for you guys if it didn't.
You know what I was going to say, Lacy, is I tried the long form link, and then it didn't. I got an error too, but then I refreshed it and the error was gone. It was like a HostGator error, but then I refreshed it again.
Are you guys crashing my website? Is that what's happening?
Are so many.
You guys are crashing my website.
That's so funny.
No, that's kind of fun. I've always kind of thought, okay, what would I do when that happens? I guess I'll find out. Huh?
But I mean, I refreshed and then it worked again. So I'm
okay. Good. So try to follow that. Also, guys, this is not like there's no timer on this except that in June. So you guys have a little bit of time. So, and also, if you can't get in, just send me an email. No panic. We'll get it taken care of. But I'm hilacy@lacyboggs.com if you guys need any help. We'll get it taken care of. So apologize for all the tech issues. I swear, this is craziness. But so now I am ready to answer some questions if you have some for me, Beth Ann. So, just to recap, what we went through were the 5 W's. So we talked about who you're going to write to. Your what kind of comes last, right? When are you going to post it? where are you going to promote it, and the most important, the big why. Why are you doing this for your business? Why are you doing this to support your business? So have we got any questions coming in or from before?
Yeah. So I took down a bunch of awesome questions we had while you were going. So okay. So here, let me start with some of these. Okay.
I think I'll go back to my face.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay, so Divafwa said, that's an interesting name. When you have a general audience which is large, should you break down your audiences? So she says, like, crafters broken down to thrifty versus one at nows, etc.
That's a great question. So I think that's partially probably what you're selling and your sales cycle. So, if you have, let's pretend for a second, you have an ebook about how to craft thrifty. Then that would be the audience you're going to target while you're selling that particular product. But if later on you have something that's like a done-for-you service that's for higher-end people that just want it now, then you're talking to that audience. So there's two ways you could organize it. If you have a sales, sorry, I just bumped my mic. If you have a sales cycle, I would focus on the audience you're selling to during that sales cycle. If you're in between sales cycles and you just want some more general content, you could rotate between your different audiences, and that way you make sure you're hitting everybody. Kind of a third option there is to put different variations for your different audiences. So let's say you're doing a how-to, a crafting how-to. You could say, if you want to be thrifty, here's how to do it. But if you want to just buy this product, here's what I recommend. So there's a couple ways to mix it up. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that idea of your last recommendation, Lacy, of where you could do both in the same, I don't know, that's pretty cool. Like,
yeah. And if, that works really well for her niche. Mm-hmm. Like if I were going to try to do that, I have total beginners and people that are a little further along in business. The way I might do that is say, if this concept is totally new to you, click here to read this other blog post that'll help you, or something like that, or click here to download this ebook that'll fill you in. Something along those lines, so that you're still helping the people who are maybe at this end, but you're not ignoring the people who are at this end.
Oh, that's awesome. That is such great advice. And that actually brings me to Nicole's question. And I feel like you kind of answered this, Lacy, but she said, won't you repel your target audience, excuse me, by writing so many different types of articles to meet the different audiences?
Okay, so if your audiences are very divergent, that might be a problem, but I don't think that's true. So if you think about the big websites you follow, like think about maybe you follow HuffPost or Mind Body Green or Daily Worth or something like that. They all cover a variety of topics. And when it's not direct to you, you just kind of move on, right? As long as you know that they're eventually going to come back to you. And they create that knowledge by being consistent in what they do. So, Mind Body Green puts a lot of thought into their editorial calendar. They're going to say like, okay, we're going to do a yoga one, we're going to do a spirituality one, we're going to do that, so they're hitting different parts of the market. So if you're not interested in yoga, you might see a yoga post today, but tomorrow there will be something for you. So I don't think it's really that much of a concern. I guess maybe if somehow you were attracting really divergent audiences, it could put them off, but you could use that same trick and say like, hey, if you're interested in this other thing, click this link, right? So if you're a beginner, click here. Or if you're interested in yoga, how this applies to yoga, click here. Does that make sense?
I think that totally makes sense. I feel like that's what I was saying too. Like you answered it in a lot of ways with what you were just talking about. So brilliant. And, I think that first step is like, you've got to define those audiences of yours. And you gave great ideas for, those emails you get, the surveys you do. Because then as you write, you're keeping them all in mind. You're finding a way to serve them and be helpful to each of them.
Yeah. And let's put one little caveat here. I'm not asking you to be all things to all people. So with my food blog, let's say, if I was not interested in attracting or talking to college kids and empty nesters, there's nothing that says I have to. I was attracting them already, right? I wasn't trying to, and they just showed up, which is okay. If I wanted to nurture that audience, I could write content specifically for them. But if I wanted to focus on my busy moms, that's okay too. You don't have to be everything to everybody. If you attract a few people from divergent niches, hey, that's okay. No problem there. But you don't necessarily have to create content directly for them if that's not where you want your business to go.
So true. And, so many of my favorite blogs, they might be all around online business, but sometimes their posts or their podcast episodes interest me and sometimes they don't. And it's not a big deal. It's like, I'm not getting mad at Social Media Examiner when they talk about LinkedIn just because I don't care about LinkedIn.
Exactly. There'll be something for you coming along soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so a non-1030 asks, can you run more than one campaign simultaneously, or will it be confusing if each product is focused towards different audiences? Or do you wait after the first 8-week run is complete?
Yeah, so my advice would be do not try to do that. Even in my experience, even one post that's different from your sequence will pull people out. It sort of pulls people out of that priming phase that you want to put them into buy. So I would not try to run 2 sequences at once. I can't think of any time that would be a good idea just off the top of my head. So yeah, I would make sure that you're launching one thing at a time. Now, the only caveat I can think about for that is if you're selling through email and you can segment your list so you can talk to different groups specifically. So this group only gets these emails and this group only gets these emails. You could run 2 campaigns simultaneously that way because you'd be talking to different groups, talking to different people. But you can't really segment your blog. So I would say when it comes to blogging, it's not a good idea. It really will pull people out and sort of disrupt what you're trying to create with that sequence.
That's
good questions.
Yeah. And that was a great point, Lacy. Oh my goodness. I'm seeing this webinar. I'm like, holy cow, I've got to start like for this Kickstarter that's going on. And like, okay, so for example, this is how I would use your advice, Lacy, is like, usually on our blog, we have a lot of different, we do guest posts, people come in and share their business advice, case studies. I share business advice, case studies, but then we also have this time management piece that we focus on with moms and being intentional. But so like the Kickstarter is for the planner. So essentially what I'm hearing from you, Lacy, is that for June and July before that Kickstarter happens, I really just need to dive into this whole time management, living intentionally, setting and, tackling your goals, and honestly just like kind of let the other business stuff like chill out for a little bit. I mean, is that kind of true?
Yeah, you could totally do that, or you could be intentional about how you choose the topics for the other posts. So you were saying you have interviews, and what was the other thing?
Like guest posts. We're taking a lot of guest posts now.
Okay. So then I would curate your interviews and guest posts so that you're interviewing people who talk about time management and that you're getting guest posts about time management. So you can keep your regular cycle of posts because that's what people have come to expect.
Yeah.
But secretly, even if you never mention the Kickstarter or the planner at all, you're still priming them to be thinking about time management, right? Yes. So if you interview somebody who's a time management guru, or even if just in your interviews you ask a lot of questions about how they manage their time, you're planting the seeds, right? You're priming them to be thinking about time management. So that's a really good way to kind of do it sneakily.
Love that, Lacy. See, look at this. I told you all Lacy was so smart. Like I'm always learning from her. Like, help me figure out my content plan. Okay, we had some other great questions. Well, Kristen really quick said, did you mention Pinterest as a place to promote? I think you said Pinterest.
I think I said Pinterest. Maybe I stumbled over. That's not somebody go register that URL though. Pinterest. It could be in the new thing. You never know.
I know, like some sort of take off of that. Oh, then someone asked, would Blogstorm be helpful for someone in direct sales?
Yes, I think so. So my only caveat there is if you have a lot of restrictions placed on what you can say by your company. I know there are some companies that have very strict policies about how you can blog and how you can promote yourself. That might that might put the kibosh on some of it. But if you work for a company that encourages you to blog and have your own stuff for your direct sales, then yes, I think that would be fine. The process is the same no matter what you're selling. So whether you're selling a product, a service, an affiliate link, and multi-level marketing, all of those things, it still applies because you're still selling something, right? So especially if your company is already defining those sales cycles for you, a lot of them do. So that makes your life easier.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Someone else asked, do you use a similar calendar for email newsletters? And it sounds like you kind of, yeah, I'll let you answer.
Sure. So yes, you absolutely can. And, you can even put your email newsletters in there if that works for you. Make one line one color for blog posts and another line another color for, can you tell I get a little geeky about spreadsheets? But I do use this kind of a similar, so weekly I just send out my blog post as an email newsletter. And then when I'm launching something, I will actually go through the AIDA sequence with my emails. So if there's something I'm particularly selling, I'll either do 4 emails over time, which I'm sure you guys have seen this sort of technique. They say like, get on the VIP list, or, now the cart's open. Okay, now you have 2 days left. Okay, now you have 1 day left. Okay, last call. Those kind of emails. You can use that AIDA within that sequence to help promote and lead them down that path a little more. Email marketing is kind of a whole other bag. We could talk for a whole nother hour about that. But yes, the short answer is yes. The even shorter answer is that sometimes I even do, like I said before, all 4 AIDA in a single email, and that works really well. That converts really, really well.
Awesome. Someone else, Mom to Boss, she asked, is it possible to use the AIDA through pictures on Instagram?
What a great question. Yes. I don't see why not. So attention would be whatever you think is going to get the most eyeballs, right? Whatever you think is going to get the most likes. Interest might be a smaller, going deeper somehow. Desire, I think 95% of Instagram is desire, right? We see the people lounging by the pool or looking beautiful or having the cool coffee or whatever, right? It's all about desire. The only thing that's a little hard with Instagram is the action, getting people to take action. So if you already have a good system for how to get people to get off Instagram and take action, the answer is yes. I can see how that would work really, really well.
All right, I have one more, or we had some more questions, but someone was like, oh no, I had the link pulled up and it didn't, so I'm just putting it in here.
Sure, no worries. Thank you for manning the chat box for me. When I have my slides full screen, I can't see anything else, so
yeah.
It's hard to chat at the same time.
And someone out real quick here, someone said, thank you so much for an amazingly informative webinar. So
awesome. Thank you. Yeah. That's my whole goal here, guys. I do have the product if you want to go a little further, but I really want to give you the foundation here in the webinar, so I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah. Okay, and then someone said, Anon9623, is Blogstorm geared toward online businesses that sell products?
It's geared towards pretty much anything. So I would say, if you sell products online, you can absolutely use this. I was telling Beth Ann before we came on, I ran some ads last year directly to product-based businesses because I feel like there's a lot, people with product businesses have even more trouble figuring out what to blog about. And when we run it live in July, I do some call outs and make sure that you product people are okay and getting what you need, because it is slightly different. When you're selling jewelry, it's like, what the heck do I talk about for 4 posts about jewelry? I mean, it's jewelry. What do you do? Or whatever, soap, skincare, whatever. There's a lot of different things there. But I understand that that's a slightly different challenge. So yes, there are resources for you in there.
Awesome. And speaking of a product-based business, we had this great question from Sherry. She said, if you create and sell your own products, what are your thoughts about blogging the DIY on how to do them to get some traffic? Or is that shooting yourself in the foot?
That's a really interesting question. So I think when you're first starting out, traffic is probably your main goal. And so anything you can do to get that traffic is probably a good thing. There's a couple of ways you can look at this. And this is actually true for service businesses and like courses and things too. So you can sell the strategy, or excuse me, you can give away the strategy and sell the tactics. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say you're talking about, I'm just going to talk about soap. Let's pretend we're making soap. So you can talk about how you choose your ingredients, how you blend the scents, how you make it luxurious, how you mold them. You know, those are all kind of the hows, right? The whys, maybe. And that you could sell the product, or you could sell a how-to, saying here's exactly step-by-step how to make this soap. Or you could do it the other way. So you could give away, here's exactly how step-by-step to make the soap, and sell, and here's how I make it all luxurious. You know, here's how I choose my ingredients, here's how I do my mold. So just, if that makes sense a little bit. But when you're first starting out, I mean, that's what I did. I gave away everything. I gave away all of everything, the strategy, the tactics, the how-to, the why, all of it. And what I found was people were still interested in buying, because when you package it up nicely, there's value in that. So there's value in, it's like the crafter before who was talking about the thrifty people versus the done-for-you people. There's going to be that in every niche. So it's a little bit of a risk, but I wouldn't say, like, don't give away your secret sauce. Don't give away your 12 herbs and spices or whatever, but you can give away the general how-to for sure. That was a long-winded answer for a pretty simple question. Sorry about that.
No, I thought that was great. Like, you really addressed it well. And yeah, and I'm the girl who is, like, I'm terrible at DIY. If anytime I attempt DIY, my husband has to, like, come fix it for me because it's, like, such a mess. And so if I go see, like, let's say I see an awesome project on Pinterest that would look great, like, in my son's room, well, honestly, I'll click through to, like, get ideas. But what I'm going to do is go to the store and try to find something similar. But if that same blog also was like, oh, hey, by the way, if you want to grab one done for you, here you go, that's me. I still would have discovered the DIY project on Pinterest because those spread like hotcakes, you know, over there. But I'll get to the site and done. I'm just gonna buy it. So
I think you're not a minority. I think there's a lot of people like that for sure.
Yeah, DIY takes me way too long, and, like, I'm someone who still cannot, like, cut in a straight line. Like, I can't. I don't have that coordination. So yeah, it doesn't work for me. I'm trying to think if we had anything else here. Oh, someone did ask about lifetime access for Blog Storm.
It is lifetime access. So that's kind of the whole, that's why you guys get in on the super awesome deal, because when I upgrade, you'll all automatically get the upgrade. So
woo woo!
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna head over now because I need it for me too.
I'd be honored to have you.
Yeah, that will be fun. I'm gonna go grab it after this webinar. Okay, great answer. Someone said, yeah, your answer applied to her too. She's an artist. And Sherry said, yes, that really helped me. Oh, good. Bronte. Yes. Okay, Bronte. I have one more question here from Bronte. She's like waiting. She's like, I asked mine too. Okay, so here was her question. She said, can you have one website that targets two different audiences? She said, so she writes children's fiction, but she's also working on an editing book for indie authors and some other products that audience would find helpful. I was thinking about doing a book review site for parents, teachers, etc., who would buy children's fiction, but I'd also like to offer writing advice, maybe a few contests. I was going to call it Read Write or something similar. It would have clearly marked tabs or categories for readers and writers. Or should I make two distinct websites?
I get that kind of question pretty frequently. And I think probably you're better off with two different websites or two very distinct parts of your website. So, like, if you look at my homepage and scroll down a little bit, there's a middle section that says, do you want to learn the trade craft, which is my way of saying learn how to do it yourself, or hire an expert? So I have two distinct paths, right? Because as I talked about, I made that mistake in the beginning where I had two audiences. And so then I created products to support those two audiences I had attracted. So I'm asking people on my homepage to self-select, which one are you? So you could do something similar where you'd have, are you interested in reading children's fiction or writing children's fiction? And that way they would be two separate tracks, but they would be pretty separate websites. I would not try to have one blog for both audiences. So even if technically it's in the same WordPress, you might have tags or whatever that sends it to two different landing pages, basically. That's getting into technical stuff that I'm not really good at, but I would say keep them separate because I think those are so different. Also, with children's fiction, it's very challenging so you either get the parents or you get the writers, I think, rather than both. I have several friends who write picture books, and so it's always a question of who are you writing to? Are you writing to other picture book people or are you writing to moms and dads? I think because those are so different and they have such different needs and what they want to hear about, that I would probably do either two majorly different sections of one site or two different sites.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Lacy. Bronte said, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And then,
so if you guys, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, if you guys sign up for Blogstorm, you get into the Facebook group. But even if it's not the right time for you for Blogstorm, that's okay too. I have a free library that has a Facebook group as well. So I'm always in there. If you guys have more questions or if stuff comes up later, I'm around. Just come find me.
Awesome. And I just want to share this little quick kind of example that Mom to Boss gave, and also kind of share why this is so relevant. So she said that her sister uses only Instagram for her business, and she gives tutorials, she shares what products she uses and where to get them, and she's successful because she's got this community she's built, she's serving them essentially. It's like what I would call microblogging,
Sure.
She's using that social media platform as her blog, and that's where all of her content exists. And honestly, you guys, that's becoming more and more of a thing. I mean, you can use microblogging with Instagram or Facebook or Periscope. People, kind of are doing that now. Even Pinterest, some of the big brands, the way they'll use Pinterest is like contain all of the instructions right in the pin description and then link back to their Pinterest profile to say, oh, hey, like here's my main product, or oh, hey, come click here. So with this microblogging though, it's the same concepts that Lacy is teaching you, which is, you have to have a plan and you have to inspire action, get people, incite that desire for your product, and have that plan and warm up that audience. So same concept.
I totally agree. The right tool is the one that works. So, if Instagram is working for you, then work it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need a traditional blog if that's working. My only caveat there is make sure that it is working. Make sure that so it sounds like her sister's like a pro and got it down. But like if you're someone who's considering, do I need a traditional blog or can I stay on social media? I have two things to think about. The first is, are you getting people to take action? Because on some of the social media sites, Instagram comes to mind the most just because you can't put clickable links, I don't think, in the comments. It's a little harder to drive traffic to like a place where you can pay for something. So just make sure it's working. If you've got that figured out, because I know people do, awesome. If it's working, great. The other question is, what happens when the place, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're playing, changes the rules? So I know this happened just recently with Instagram. They changed the way the newsfeed was displayed. They put an algorithm just like Facebook. I was at a conference this past weekend and they showed a graph of the incredible slide of organic Facebook traffic for businesses, and the guy was talking about how he knew a business that 5 years ago, like most of their leads and sales came from Facebook, and then all of a sudden it was gone instantly. So that's my warning, because you own your blog. right? You own your email list. Nobody can take that away from you. However, like Facebook, Instagram, and so on can change the rules, or could, heaven forbid, go out of business. And then what's your plan B? So just be aware of those two things. Brian Clark of Copyblogger calls it digital sharecropping, when you build your platform only on somebody else's site, like a social media site. So just be aware. I personally like to use social media and drive people back to my site because I know I own that, right? And I own the emails I collect from there. If it works for somebody to do it all on Instagram or whatever, that's awesome. I'm not knocking it. I just want everybody to think about it a little bit.
Sure, definitely. And I mean, I would say too with that, it's like at the end of the day, building that email list, you know, like that is like you own your site for sure too, but like, and your email list is like, those are people you've got the personal relationship with, you've got the ability to get a message right to their inbox anytime you want. So if you can use those other platforms to, you know, like let's say on Instagram, let's take that sister example. So it's awesome if like she's getting sales, building a community, but she should every single week be finding a way to direct people to get on her email list, you know, like give them a great freebie offer, coupon, something, and build that email list. And then that way, yeah, when the algorithm change, like your email list will be algorithm proof. I mean, yeah, I guess there was the Gmail like promotions tab, but compared to the other
most part, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you know, like, do you guys follow Men with Coffee on Instagram? It's like this account, and all it is pictures of hot men with coffee, which genius, right?
Yeah.
But makes money because people pay her to put their photos on her account, right? She makes a lot of money. She does well. She supports herself. Well, I don't know, a month or two ago, she was hacked. And she lost tens of thousands of followers in the couple of days. I think it was less than a week that she didn't have control of her site and her account, and they were posting spam. And she lost tens of thousands of followers. I mean, it set her back enormously, and it's not something she ever could have foreseen, obviously, but that's a huge hit to her business. Now, luckily, I happen to know that she also runs an Instagram course, so like that's not her whole business, which is good, right? Because if Instagram goes away, if she couldn't have gotten that back, I mean, that would have been, if that had been her whole business, she'd be done, right? But she had another part of her business, so she was, I mean, it wasn't good, but at least she was okay. This has turned into like a nightmare hour. That's not what I intended at all. Like, if you're savvy enough to use Instagram and Pinterest to run your entire business, like, more power to you. Just keep these things in mind. And if you can build somewhere off that channel as well, in addition, that might be a wise thing to do. That's all I meant to say.
Yeah. No, and you brought up great points, Lacy. That was great points, and things for everybody to think about for sure. Okay, we had, let's see, and I'm not sure how much more time you have, Lacy.
Yeah, we'll just do maybe one or two more questions. If you've stuck with us this long, thank you very much. I know we're past our hour mark, but this has been fun, and I'm happy to answer a couple more.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a non-1030 said, do you think a business required a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter feed in addition to the main blog, or can a blog alone be successful?
Okay, so this is a great way to flip it around, right? Yeah. So I think it's more likely that a blog alone could be successful than a social media account alone. Now, again, there are outliers that can do it, but I think it's more likely that a blog alone could do that. But ask yourself, how are people going to find you? What promotional strategies are you going to use? There are promotional strategies that do not require you to have social media accounts. Maybe you do influencer marketing. So you get people who have huge audiences to talk about you. Maybe you do guest posting. Maybe you get traditional PR. So you get written up in the newspaper or on a bigger website. There are ways to do it without having social media at all. I think, though, that because these accounts are free, it's always probably a good idea to pick one or two that you like. So pick the ones you like. If you hate Facebook, don't be on Facebook. If you don't understand Snapchat like me, don't get on Snapchat. Like, there's no reason to do those things. But pick one or two to focus on, because again, it's just one more way. It's free. It's a way to drive at least some traffic, and you never know who you're going to find or who's going to find you there. So, especially with all the social media scheduling tools that are out there now, it becomes very easy to manage a couple of accounts where you think your people are hanging out the most and that you enjoy.
I love that. Yes. Great advice. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't have to do it all. Stick with Lacy's editorial calendar plan, and you will be breathing so much easier instead of just, I have to be everywhere and post a million things all the time.
Yeah. Like I always say, quality is more important than quantity. So if you can post one amazing blog post a month and that's all you can manage, that's okay. Be consistent, deliver amazing quality. You'll be all right, because we're past the stage of more being better. More is not better. Better is better.
That's such a good point.
That's your tweetable for the day.
Yes. More is not better. Better is better. You actually reminded me though too. So like James Clear is one example of a dude who has no social media. He's at jamesclear.com. Sometimes I think he does only write one blog post a month, but they're always really good. Like he pulls in like research studies and just really thoughtful stuff. He's built up a huge email list. And so you get an email letting you know about his next great post. Then there's a few little things he sells on his site, but like that's it. His site is like mostly a blank white thingy and a great blog post. And
what I think is fascinating. So here's another example. Like Seth Godin posts almost every day, but if you follow him on Facebook, it's just a robot reposting a link. He doesn't engage on Facebook at all. Copy Blogger, which is one of the big, huge websites in my niche, they deleted their Facebook because they weren't getting very much engagement. And it caused this huge, like, oh my God, they deleted it. But they're fine. They found they were getting much more engagement on Twitter and Google Plus, of all places. So if you can figure out where your audience is, you don't have to be on every single one. There's good examples of people who are doing it without killing themselves on social media. Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, well, unless you've got like one more quick one I can answer, I think we'll be respectful of everybody's time and wrap it up here.
I think that was most of them. Little Red Flag said, that's Katie. Hi, Katie. This is such a great therapy session. Removing guilt for not doing more.
Yes. Okay, let's all tattoo that on our foreheads, please. We do not have to do more. Actually, I just got to tell you guys this story. I was at this business conference. I was at the Quiet Power Strategy Summit in Portland this weekend, and our keynote speaker was Charlie Gilkey, who I was not super familiar with before now, but now I'm like his biggest fan, because his message for the weekend was go deep, build a small fire, and sit close to it. And what he meant was, like, the bigger your fire gets, the further back you have to be. So the bigger your business gets, the more work it is, the further back you have to be from really going deep. But if you build a small fire and sit close to it, you can do deeper, more meaningful work. And it just resonated with me so much. So there, we'll leave on that. That's a good note to finish up on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beth Ann, for allowing me to come talk to your friends.
Sure. Thank you for coming. We had a great time, and this was awesome. So
awesome. And there will be a replay. I mean, obviously you guys watched it, but if you want to watch it again, or if somebody asks, there's a replay right on the same webpage where you are right now. And I look forward to getting to know all of you better. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lacy.